Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to PowellMinistries.com, Blog Talk Radio, where we are interviewing the Holiness Movement. This is James Powell, your host.
God we still trust. In God we still trust. Here in America, He's the one we turn to. Every time we go and get rough, He is the source of our strength.
We would like to welcome you today to today's show. We'd like to thank each of you for tuning in to PowellMinistries.com Blog Talk Radio. We are continuing to interview different ones across the Holiness Movement regarding their ups and downs in their particular areas that God has them in. We are in the midst of trying to schedule some who are dealing with technology, youth camp presidents, youth pastors, some in the area of counseling and many others. But if you would like to be interviewed or know someone that would be interviewed, you can go to our website, PowellMinistries.com, and go there and send us an email, contact us. And also, if you would be interested in our newsletter, you can sign up there for our newsletter. And if you would like to listen to archived episodes of our blog talk, you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Pastor Powell. But that's enough of that. Today we have a good friend of mine with us, and I would like to just welcome him on our show today. We'd like to welcome Reverend David Fulton, an evangelist, and we'd like you to just say hello to us, Reverend Fulton, and introduce yourself, if you would.
Well, good afternoon, Brother Powell. It's so good to be here. I am a traveling evangelist, an itinerant minister. Maybe it'd be a little more accurate, but I travel around the United States and internationally preaching the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's a wonderful privilege to be here with you. I live in Frankfort, Indiana, up in the northwestern part of the state of Indiana, and God has been blessing and helping, and we have thoroughly enjoyed it and look forward to the interview today.
All right. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us today, and we'd like to maybe ask you, is there anything, maybe bring us up to date at what is happening in your life? I know that you are a grandpa, but that happened a little while ago. But is there anything new that's happening in your life that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, other than being a grandpa, I can't think of anything that could beat that. But now I have one child still at home, have 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. My oldest 2 are married and live in Hobe Sound, Florida. And my oldest child, my son, has my grandbaby girl. And then I still have one at home that is engaged and going to be out of the house by the end of the year. So Leah and I are looking at empty nest syndrome here pretty soon.
All right. I imagine that's going to be a major change in your life, but that sounds good. Well, I'd like to get into a few questions, and with you being an evangelist, and which, yes, I have hosted you, had a revival with you, and we enjoyed the time. But across the Holiness Movement, we have revivals. Every church schedules a fall and a spring revival. And sometimes I just wonder, we go through the motions, and we always hear of yesteryear when the revival happened and, how good it was. What would be, in your opinion, maybe one of the most common issues that you see in churches that may be a hindrance to revival?
Well, one of the things I think that hinders revival the most is the fact that you touched on. It has become somewhat of a routine, somewhat of a scheduled event, and we're really not looking at revival to be what it needs to be. The children of Israel struggled with this when they began to take the things of God for granted. They began to minimize the blessings, minimize the importance of their worshiping God. And when that happened, it wasn't long until they drifted from what God had intended. One of the biggest fears that I have, one of the biggest things that I see as I travel around the country is it has become routine to many, many people. It has become just something that we do, something we go through. We don't anticipate revival. We don't expect revival. We just kind of come and go from the place of God, unchanged, unmoved, unanticipating. And anytime you have people that fall into a lackadaisical or a less than fervent relationship with God, revival really suffers. Revival begins to wane. And that's the issue, I think, that is number one in the conservative holiness movement especially, is allowing our worship of God to just become habit, routine, mundane, instead of retaining the fervency that we should have.
Sure. Yeah, I have found that probably, of course, as pastoring, you go through the routine sometimes just in regular services, and I admit that's my heart's cry, is to not only during revival but just during regular worship service. Don't let it become a routine and truly worship God. And I would, it seems like the more I talk to other pastors, and I guess some of our age group, I can feel that is a desire that is we're starting to realize that may be some of our problem, routine.
If we do not retain the fervency, if we do not retain that awe and splendor of the worship of God, that we are doomed to drift, as every other group has that has lost its fervency for God.
Sure, totally agree. Yes. All right. In your traveling around, has there ever been a mess up in your scheduling where you get somewhere and you're kind of left out? The revival's not happening. They forgot about you. Has that ever happened to you yet?
Well, it has not happened to me personally. It's come close a couple of times. I thought I was scheduled to speak at a place, and a month or so before, in casual conversation with another pastor in the area, mentioned to him that I was going to be in his area. He didn't know anything about it. He contacted the pastor where I was supposed to be. They didn't know anything about it, so I got my wires crossed somewhere, but I wasn't sitting there. I was fortunate enough it was a little time out. So I guess personally I've not been left out in the cold yet, but maybe that's just because I haven't been on the road as long as some others have.
Well, that's good. I know that's kind of a crazy question, but sometimes you just kind of wonder. You hear of different evangelists and pastors, forgot about one, and it has happened before. So.
Well, now I did leave a pastor out in the cold one time. I scheduled a Monday through a Sunday revival with him, and somehow in my thinking I thought it was a Tuesday through a Sunday, and I showed up a day late poor pastor. I felt sorry for him. The people were chastising him. And I told him, no, that's not on him. That's on me. And so as kind of a favor, the next time I was at his church in revival, he backed into the front of my car. So I guess we're even.
More than one way to get you back.
Oh, I felt so sorry for the pastor because everybody was chastising him, and it was not him at all. It was me. But, you know, the interesting thing with that, you know, I struggled with it. Lord, why did you allow that? You could have prompted me. You could have. But over and over in the testimonies during the remainder of the revival, people talked about how they loved that first service because it was unscheduled. Nobody knew what was going on, and so everybody had to worship the Lord and not fall on the routine. And over, they mentioned how much they appreciated that service. And sometimes I think God just lets us blunder, and he gets glory through it. I just wish it hadn't been at my expense necessarily.
Right. Well, God's plan is always the best plan.
That's right.
All right. What would you say to pastors, maybe as a help or suggestion in hosting an evangelist?
Well, the evangelist, their likes and dislikes and tastes and are so varied that, you know, some evangelists, they want to sit around and fellowship. Others kind of crawl off in the corner and hold themselves up in their room. You know, just me, for instance, I like to jog. I like to run. I go running about every morning, so that's something that is unique with me. In hosting a pastor, I think, in hosting an evangelist, I think a pastor, it needs to just remain flexible because you never know what you're going to get into.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. I know each one has their own little, as you stated, their own little things, and I guess as a pastor, no matter, it's parsonage has to remain flexible no matter what you're doing. So,
yeah.
How does it affect you being away from home so much? I know there are times that you're not away. You know, you may be home a couple weeks, but how does it affect you overall?
Well, of course, you miss being with your wife and with my daughter that is still at home. And when I was traveling, when all the children were at home, I missed that. I've missed several anniversaries, been in revivals during anniversaries, and so that becomes a bit of a sacrifice. You hate to use that word, but there is sacrifices with me being on the road. Leah has to take care of things and pay the bills and so forth while I'm gone. But with modern technology, with the internet and with cell phones and all of that, it's nothing compared to what the great evangelist who got on trains and chugged around the country for months at a time and never spoke to anybody at home. So I am thankful for the technology that allows me to stay in touch even when I'm out of touch.
Sure, yeah. Thinking of the different services you've had, and I mean you've traveled all over the place, even overseas, and I mean you've put many miles on. And can you think of maybe one of your favorite services, maybe an extra special moving of God that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh, there have been so many. To try to select one is a challenge. Whenever God's presence comes, it's special. It's so awesome. I remember preaching at a youth camp a few years ago and challenging the young people to take a stand for God like David took a stand, and how they could be victorious. And many of the young people came from inner city bus ministry type. They didn't grow up in a holiness home. And as I closed the challenge, I was not intending to give an altar call necessarily, but the young people just began to pour to the altar in a show and a display of wanting their peers and friends to know that they were going to stand for God. And I was moved by their response to the message. It wasn't me, it was God, because I had not intended to give an altar call, and the altars were lined 2 and 3 deep. It was phenomenal. God moved and met with us, and I believe it was because the young people just had a heart for God, and that always moves me.
Sure, that is neat. That is neat. Well, for someone that is starting out to maybe feels a pull into evangelism, I know that you haven't always been in evangelism. You've been a pastor, and what would your suggestions be on how someone would start into evangelism?
Well, one thing I would say is make sure that that is exactly what God is calling you to do, because the rigors of the evangelistic field are much bigger and much more in-depth than most pastors understand, that if they just do a revival here or there. But when you're on the road for 3 and 4 and 5 weeks at a time, living out of a suitcase in a different parsonage, learning different people, it is a challenge. You're alone for a great deal of time as you travel across the country. That presents its own set of challenges with it. Make sure that you know that that's what God's calling you to do. And if that is what God is calling you to do, He will open up the doors. There's no question in my mind, because He's done it for me. But my challenge to them, my admonition to them would be, make sure that you know, because when you hold the revival and things didn't go right, and there's pressures at home and there's pressures on the road, and the temptation to quit comes, if you know that you can stand. But
Sure.
If you don't, there's been many that have, well, maybe I just didn't want to do it, and they've bailed out, and sometimes that probably could have been avoided had they really sought the mind of God.
Sure. All right. What would again, with all your vast traveling and the many different services you've held in different situations, what would be one of your most rewarding things that you can see of being an evangelist?
Seeing people mind God is by far the most rewarding thing in ministry of any kind, whether it is evangelism or mission work or inner city work or pastoring or whatever. When you begin to see people mind God, the lights come on, the message gets through. That is by far the most rewarding part of ministry of any kind, and especially in evangelism, as you see and touch the lives of so many different people across the country. It's phenomenal how you see God begin to move and work, and they come to the altar, and you see them 6 months, a year later at IH convention, and they're still doing good spiritually. That's very, very rewarding.
Yeah, but it seems like all through the theme of this interview is kind of going back to when getting out of routine and allowing God to work, and I believe that is key for, if we're going to keep the holiness movement as the holiness movement. That is so key.
Right.
Well, just gonna want to give you some time and just take. We got about 10 minutes left on this show. Give you some time to give some closing comments, maybe a challenge, a favorite verse, maybe if you're wanting to let everyone know how to get in contact with you if you're needing, if they're needing an evangelist. But just going to turn a few minutes over to you, and you can sum everything up however you want to feel, however you feel. And it has been a pleasure interviewing you. You're a good friend of mine, and I do thank you for allowing me to interview you and coming on this show today.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, we are good friends. We've gone over the road together in ministerial trips and laughed together and cried together and prayed together, and the bond of friendship and brotherhood that comes from serving Jesus Christ is incomparable to anything else, and I appreciate it, and all of your friendship and your support over the years, and even though we were the old men in the ministerial team, it was wonderful to have somebody at least my age to chum around with for a little bit. But if somebody is wanting to get in touch with me, they can contact me on my Facebook page. It's David L. Fulton Sr., David Fulton Sr., because my son is Junior, and he is also on Facebook, and I was getting comments that were meant for him, and he was getting comments that were meant for me, so I put the Senior on. And they can contact me there, or they can contact me on my email address. It's DLFSR, just like David Leon Fulton Sr., 68 at yahoo.com, or they can call me at 765-242-2566. We'll be happy to try to work out a date or whatever. We try to minister in any way. I've always believed and have always practiced, if the Lord opens a door for ministry, you walk through it. And I know most of the evangelists that I work with are that way, and I appreciate it. I enjoy evangelism. I enjoy spreading the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I enjoy ministering, whether it's in the U.S. or Haiti or Bolivia or Honduras or wherever it may be. As God opens doors, I enjoy it and thoroughly enjoy it. Wouldn't do anything else. And I just appreciate the opportunity that God has allowed me to minister for Him. And it's like I say everywhere I go, if anything good happens, He gets the glory. If anything bad happens, it was my fault. So it's kind of a deal that we have. And I know that God is wanting to work with us, wanting to move among us, wanting to do, if we'll just allow Him, if we'll just take the time to have the personal relationship that He wants us to have. So many of the issues that we wrestle with become minor issues. They become nothing to fuss about if we will just focus on a relationship with Jesus Christ. And that is by far the most important. And thanks again, Brother Powell, for allowing me to come on here and rant and rave for a little while.
Well, we thank you very much for allowing us to interview you, and you can send our greetings to your wife and your kids. I know that I've been kind of, I guess it's a sign of old age, kind of been reminiscing about a few years ago, and we've spent a lot of good times together, and just it's kind of neat to see where God has placed us and to see that we're doing what God has called us to do. And but thank you again so much, and we trust that you have a good day, and God bless you, Reverend Fulton.
Well, God bless you, and take care. Tell Bethany and Joshua and Pam we said hey.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. We'd like to remind you that we are having a few more scheduled for the upcoming shows. We do have a inner city pastor that's working with a mission coming up in May, and we would like to thank you for stopping by. We are trying to reschedule Reverend Heskett. We had a conflict last week, but we're trying to reschedule him. We do have a few more coming on, and we're going to be contacting them and letting them know, or trying to get them to let us know what's happening in their life. But it was a good day today, interviewing Reverend Fulton. And once again, go to our website, palministries.com, if you would like to sponsor an episode, or if you would like us to interview someone, please get a hold of us through there. If you'd like to sign up for our email newsletter, please go there, the entrance page, and you can sign up there. And we are emailing those out each week, but we are going to cut back and try to go bi-weekly. Also remind you that we will be uploading our episodes to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Pastor Powell, where you can go back and listen to our previous episodes. But we would like to thank you for tuning in today, and we trust that you have a good day, and may you truly live for God. God bless you.